Hello, world. Today, we are going to be making part two of the internet beef drama between us and our friend Andrew Lordson. That is Cody.
And that's Kyle. And so we finished part one off by ending the conversation about your guys' most recent collaboration, which was the communism video, which was about a year ago. And then 8 months ago, so like 2 months after that, he posted the video that essentially is what I like to call the leave me alone meltdown video. And so my first note in that actually, because it's like kind of one of the main themes of his video is like tough times and things like that. And it's like, dude, my last 10 years hasn't been all sunshines and rainbows. So, you know, I know what tough times are as well. Um, I haven't been homeless. I don't know if that's the case for Andrew. But I have definitely gone through some things, as you know, and we can talk about those at a different time because they're not really on topic. But my notes on the Leave Me Alone video start with him saying, get a life, which is something he often purports onto you as like, dude, you have no life, leave me alone. And you are the epitome of the person of who is too busy to create content because yeah, that's just the way it is. We have lives. You especially are very busy.
This was a pretty big point in the reacting video that I did make.
Yeah.
I did talk about all the things that you know constitute my life, as it were. The kids, the mortgage, the
Good
full
job.
job. It's a career. My pets. So
My job too.
yeah, well, because I'm a teacher, and teachers in this country don't.
Make what they
Well,
should.
they have to moonlight, as it
Right.
were.
Yeah. So obviously the get a life comment doesn't carry much weight. And he says that you're not worthy of respect and kind of like going off of that same thing. And yeah, it's just very insulting. And he says, quote unquote, I ignore you, which you and I have both uh, found the irony in because if he's ignoring you, he's not doing a very good job considering the fact this video is all about you.
Yeah, he has made multiple videos entirely about me,
Yeah.
and I have asked once again to have face-to-face conversation with him, and he just refuses
Yeah.
continually.
Yeah. And so then he goes into again what I think is almost on the insult level where he talks about you, and this is the thing, is like he goes into his good versus evil when it comes to like you being a parent and offering your child trans affirming care, which we talked about. Again, the words kind of matter.
Yeah,
And I called it gender affirming care, but it's
exactly.
essentially the same thing. And it's where, you're not going to sit here and be a denier to someone's identity, especially a child of yours.
Yeah, and so like this is a side point completely that like completely organic outside of anything we have ever actually talked about and prepared. But he, in his one of his most recent videos, uses the term child mutilation, and I believe he is referring to uh gender transition surgery. And it's like, well, there's a way to properly refer that, and using the term mutilation is definitely not proper.
Correct.
So I mean, and that's the thing, is like he's obviously really, really obsessed with like YouTube views, likes, comments, all all that stuff. And he like has videos where it's like, oh, if you mattered, I'd report you, and your video would probably get your channel a strike or something along those lines.
Yep.
But I don't care that much. I'm not gonna actually do it. I am, as much as like obsessed with YouTube. I'm watching all day, but I'm not really thinking about like the analytics side of it.
I was gonna say YouTube is such a big, crazy thing that like being obsessed with it can take many different avenues or channels. Like I have students who are obsessed with YouTube, like because all they do all day long is watch rap music on YouTube, and it's like, yeah, I understand.
I'm just looking for politics all day on YouTube.
And so there's that. And then what we've seen because of the little bit of content creation that we've done is all like the back stuff of YouTube, like the pages and like uploading and clips and cutting stuff and this, that, and the other. Anyways, let's get back to it, because at a certain point, very early on, he just starts yelling. And so this is when in my notes I use all caps. I use the all caps when it represents a time where he's not just raising his voice, but yelling, straight up yelling.
But this is the video that is literally titled "Kyle, Leave Me Alone."
Right. And no, but he yells this. Remember how tolerant you are. Like you're yelling that statement. To yell that statement,
yeah,
is just crazy.
Yeah.
And then he
it's the be tolerant of my intolerance.
Yes, exactly. Why can't you understand? And and then he continues in this yelling tirade to talk about how he was struggling. And we chose a time to pile on when he just really didn't need it or whatever. And that's the thing, is like,
so nice to him.
Yeah, first of all, you've been so nice to him. And then the second of all is like, first of all, how would I know when or what you're going through? Because I haven't communicated with you in forever. And so, yeah, I just don't really understand.
Like lose acquaintances from middle school.
Yeah. And so, anyways, yelling about the struggling is a funny thing because, like, just to break it down, is like within 5 years, dude, I broke my leg, my dad died, my stepdad died, I got divorced, I moved to Pittsburgh. Like, I've been through quite a few things in the last 10 years. But I will say this, you know what I haven't been ever? Homeless.
Yeah.
I've worked just hard enough, and I have enough of a life to guarantee that I have always had a roof over my head. Same with my child, and I've been a dad for 13 years.
Yeah, I mean, the closest I was ever to homeless was living in my place of work, which wasn't up to code. But
no, and let's be honest,
I wasn't living out of my van.
Yeah, no. The skate shop wasn't great, but like at that age, at that time, I could see myself living there. So
plumbing, I had a room and a bathroom.
Right, exactly. So, right. Yeah. And then he talks about deleting comments, and it's like, well, I don't even make comments. And so is that something that he did with you, is like you would make comments and he would just delete them?
Yeah. And like that just feeds into the bad faith thing, which I kind of want to make a grander point about, is like the idea that he's put that label on me is just like so backwards, because of like the fact that he like yells at me, calls me names, deletes my comments. It's like, and then even when he does actually respond to my comment in the comment section, it's never like realistic. He doesn't take that form seriously, and it's like, dude, I'm just trying to communicate with you in literally the last ditch effort to try and make some communication happen. And like he's just shutting it down over and over. And I don't feel like I'm coming at him in bad faith, but he for some reason thinks I am.
Yeah, I don't think you are. I don't think either of us ever has. And that's the thing is like when it comes to me is dude, I haven't talked to this guy and I haven't talked to this guy in years. Like
Yeah.
because he won't let me. So like I don't even try. I don't make comments on his YouTube videos. I've watched a couple. I'll be honest, I've watched a couple, but like only because you've told me.
I watch his videos all the time, and he constantly talks about wanting to have conversations with people. And it's like, right here, man, let's have a conversation.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So then another thing that he says in that video that is interesting from our perspective is the fact that he thinks creating content is a respect worthy thing to do, and the fact that we don't create content is
so this is where I feel bad, because I actually did bring you might even remember the exact conversation I had with Joey about this guy called Gary Vee. And Gary Vee's just this guy who's like, I don't know, content
influencer.
Yeah, content creator, influencer. I don't know how to label him correctly, but one of the things that he promotes like thoroughly and like very, very hard is content creation. He's like, if you have an Instagram account and you're not posting 3 times a day, what are you doing with your Instagram account? It's like, whoa, dude, that's yeah, exactly.
That's aggressive.
Like that. And once again, I paraphrasing, but I'm pretty close to what like the gist of what he's trying to say is.
I believe it. I believe it.
It's like saying you need to be creating content all the time.
Right. And like this is my thing is like the only instance where I would agree with that is if that is what you do to make money.
Exactly.
If you are actually making money by creating content, then do it, and do it feverishly. I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that.
I got a job, bro.
Right. I have a job. That's the thing is like, yeah, dude.
We don't need to, but I got a job. This is not my job.
I didn't even want to cook today, but I made the most awesome burger. So anyways,
literally thinking the same thing earlier. I was like, man, making that pot of chili is going to be a lot of work, but I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah. And I really did, actually. I showed you the burger.
Dude, I'm making a pot of chili. It's good. You made burgers.
So the last note that I have on this one is keyboard warrior, and that's because he refers to us as keyboard warriors multiple times in that video. And I think it's absurd because I haven't had the opportunity to be a keyboard warrior towards him. Like I don't see his Facebook posts. I don't see his Instagram posts. I'm not going to comment on his YouTube videos, as I've said before. And so like calling me a keyboard warrior from his perspective is truly insane. Like maybe the handful of things that you've done and maybe that I've done like 3 years ago would qualify me as a keyboard warrior. But as of late, that's definitely a false name for me.
Yeah. That one completely falls flat on both of us, simply because of what I stated previously and the fact that I try to have face-to-face interactions with him, and yet he continually refuses. And I don't really have any choice but to resort to the comment section in YouTube, which, to get specific, he has conflated us recently, and I'm working to solve that so that he understands entirely who is saying what, because apparently it's a source of frustration.
Right. So, anyways, after the leave me alone video, Andrew had his period of I quit creating content. And so actually you told me about this, and it's another example of me really not caring about this person at all. I didn't know that he stopped creating content. You, as you've said before, are a avid YouTube consumer.
Yes, I'll just search his channel.
Right. And because of that, you knew that he stopped creating content for what, 8 months, 6 months?
Yeah, I don't know how long, a long time.
Yeah, like he made that last video about you saying leave me alone, and I think he may have made some more, but like he stopped creating for a long time.
It is kind of interesting to note that like our sort of beef, it didn't coincide entirely with his but it was very close in time. Like he quit creating content shortly after.
Yeah. All right. So then next, what I wanted to talk about is the recent stuff. And so this brings us to now. And so most recently, you guys had a little conversation in the comments section of a YouTube video. And it's essentially about straw manning. And so in the beginning of my notes, I have you do straw man him because he never says CEO. But that's because we eventually come to the point that you ultimately make, which is it's not a straw man, it's a steel man. And what you agreed with me on this one, most people probably don't know the difference.
Oh yeah, and the fact is they're actually very similar.
Very similar, and most people probably don't know the difference. Okay,
but there is
hold on, because we'll come back to that, I think, in my notes. But what he says at the very beginning of this video, because this is something that he has recently created after his hiatus, we'll call it, right?
Yeah.
So he says they were going to start creating content, but decided not to, and I won't speculate as to why. Fair enough, respectful enough. Thank you for not getting into it. But as I have said previously, you and I are extremely busy, hence us not being able to create content. We're actually lucky in that, like, it's the middle of summer and we're both teachers. So, like,
it seems like a pointless jab, though.
Yeah, fair enough. But the answer of his question is we don't need to let him speculate. We haven't been creating content because we've been too busy. That's it. Sorry. That's how my life is. Again, then he calls us keyboard warriors. Don't know why. Don't know how he possibly thinks this. And I put this in quotations because you guys talk about the people not being capable of taking over the means of production. And he says, I'm almost positive he says that that's because the people are too stupid. I should have rewatched it actually in preparation for this. And
it still goes into the steel man that I was saying. The steel man is that people are too stupid. You need a CEO. You need one big, strong, smart, big brain guy.
Right.
Your CEO. That was the steel man that I was making.
Yeah.
So the strongest form of his argument, even though he didn't state it.
Right. And he tries to latch onto that later in a subsequent video by saying you're your own CEO or whatever the hell that means. But then again, he brings up fascism, and it's just like, dude, I think he's really, really obsessed and is scared of fascism, or like scared of what's happening in our country, and he doesn't know what to call it because he keeps calling it fascism, and we do not live in a fascist state. Like, I don't. This point just becomes like punch yourself in the face because it's like, dude, you keep saying fascism, but it's not 1930s Italy. Like,
Well, and like that's not really fair because there are forms of fascism that are occurring in the world right now, like in
sure,
yeah, in Hungary and other notable places. But yeah, once again, like they are nationalists. And that goes so much into why they are fascists. Like the as much as like once again, and this is where me and him have actually struggled or in our conversations is like can something have fascistic tendencies but not be entirely fascist?
right, exactly, right, exactly. And that's the thing is like, at best, you could say there are some things that happen in America that seem fascistic.
Thank you. But
That's,
once
I
again, like
guess,
the
I
fact
get
that
it.
the coup did not work and the fact that globalism feeds into
Prevails.
so many American policies
It just
basically
prevails.
points to the fact that, like, yeah, once again, while there may be fascistic tendencies, uh,
Global
like
capitalism
American
prevails.
authoritarianism and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. So then he brings up this idea of being, and so like, I think he relates it later with being your own CEO, but like the individual means of production. And it's like, okay, so do you not believe in any kind of collective work ever? Because, like, dude, do you think one man built all the bridges in Pittsburgh? Like,
Yeah, so when it really comes down to like his like core political philosophy, he like claims to be like an anarchist. And
right, right,
yeah, I'm doing my research on what that means. But like as far as I know, like, and this is like because I'm getting into the fucking research, uh it's really hard in like when people pursue anarchism on an individual or communal and then like larger level, what happens, what forms are syndicates. And that's when you get anarcho syndicalism. And this is a very, very specific like political ideology. But once again, it's like one of those things where anarchism, when it is practiced in reality, it almost always leads to anarcho syndicalism. So yeah.
got it. Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
So what I'm wondering about anarchism is like how do you control or basically respond to the natural formation of syndicates under an anarchist society, because that's
Right,
what
exactly.
happen when people just pursue anarchy. They'll form syndicates like
Right. And
what
then it's almost,
happens
it's like antithetical to its own purpose.
exactly.
Yeah. Like syndication is like not what anarchism is about, but it happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Inevitably.
So,
It's like,
inevitably.
oh, well, damn it.
So, anyways, he again addresses me by name, and I appreciate that we've talked about, and you're going to actively
Yeah.
make sure that any comments going forward are known, whether it's you or whether it's me. But, and you said it earlier, and I haven't said this word yet, but the conflation has really been kind of irritating, especially
Yeah.
when you say the name Cody. It's like, my name is very specific, and I've been hesitant up until now to like say Andrew. Like, I'm pretty sure in my earlier videos very specific as to say not his name.
I haven't said his name once. Only
So,
yeah.
right. So there you go. And so that's my point. It's like I don't appreciate that, and I think it's kind of a, if that's where we're gonna go, then that's where we'll go, and I'll start saying his name. So whatever.
Yeah,
But then,
no, especially because you and I are, despite or
two different
maybe
people.
to his
Right.
to his benefit, to his I don't know. He when he saw that I made a video, and it wasn't about him, he acted like he was excited, but once again, that seemed kind of facetious. So
Probably. So, anyways, he kind of ends that video uh, on a rant, and I think he even mentions it. But he says at one point, all collectivist roads lead to genocide, and like that's just a statement that I absolutely disagree with. Again, like collectivist roads lead to the greatest cities in America, and like the biggest achievements to modern man are generally achieved through collectivism. Jesus
it's
Christ.
a collectivist road by
Yeah.
definition, the interstate.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I would say this, the interstate, that was Eisenhower, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a collectivist road if I ever seen one.
And the interstate system in America is awesome, dude.
I mean, car culture in itself kind of sucks, but that's a
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
interstate system was a good idea.
Yes. Right. So actually, we'll just finish because I have a little bit of notes on something that he made recently and that I just watched, and I only have a little bit to say about it. And it's this. His video is something along the lines of our homeless epidemic is not capitalism's fault. And the video essentially is just him driving around Tacoma and showing different like homeless camps. And I will say this actually, he talks about it a couple of times about wanting to possibly make a documentary, which I think he could do successfully with the right partner. And that's what he was saying. He's just like, I want to partner up with someone and make a documentary about homelessness in America. But that's for another, time and conversation. And I think that's something that he could do, and that would actually be pretty good. But the thing is that I think about as he's driving around Tacoma and showing these homeless camps, it's like, dude, this is the same in Baltimore and Denver and Miami and LA and Phoenix. Like, dude, this isn't a West Coast problem. It's an American problem. And it's one of those things where me and him would probably agree on it being a class issue. That's the thing, is like we're having a class war. He talks a lot about the culture war, but I think the class war is probably more important.
Yeah. I think he actually, I don't get the idea that he has a super empathetic understanding of the homeless population because of his own situation.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And so this is another thing that he does, and that I think that you've talked about is he's driving around and he's like showing these homeless camps or whatever, right? And like he's like, this is not capitalism, this is fascism. But then he doesn't like explain it. Like he doesn't explain like why this is fascism. And it's like, okay.
Dude, literally, he titled his video "Healthcare is not a right," and then his video was not about that at all.
Yeah. So anyways, also in that video, he says, I did not set out to be a YouTuber. And it's just like an insane comment because you and I both know about, I mean, dude, just be honest with yourself. You definitely want to be a YouTuber. Like you've made hundreds of videos. Like it's something you want to be.
Yeah, I I don't think it is actually cognitive dissonance at this point. I think it's just him being like a sore loser. kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get too like in part one. I said something kind of personal, I think, and I don't want to get too personal because I'll
Yeah.
just say this: it would be so easy to make fun of him, but I
Yeah.
don't want to do that.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. I agree with you. I agree with you. So
Taking the high road
right.
for like the first time in my life.
And we're taking the high road on a very low road, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we take the low road. Ain't nobody else there. It's
Yeah,
easy
exactly.
to drive.
Right. And so anyways, in that same one, and when you see it, it actually looks similar to the footage that you've seen of what was called Hoover bills back in, the Depression era or whatever. And like he's like, oh, these are Hoover bills, and we should call them Biden bills. And he just like shows his extreme lack of historical knowledge because like Hoover was a Republican. He's a right-wing guy. Like that's all there is to it. So
Yeah. And those 10 cities were there when Biden came into office.
exactly.
He caused them, even though they were already there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So right. So they should actually be called Trump bills, but or whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean, we've already we one of the points that I love that you make all the time is that like people put economic prosperity on presidents. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that is just the most ridiculous. Like, yeah, like presidents have
So
very, very, very little to do with the success of the economy.
that would be a cool thing for us to talk about to have a short conversation
Yeah.
on. Because I also, well, maybe that might be a solo one. I might do it myself and talk about but that's the thing is like, I feel like if I went through the American economy by president, we could have a very good conversation back and forth.
Are you serious? Because going back how far?
Oh, yeah, that's probably like the 60s or 70s.
Okay. Yeah. Because
I don't know. That's several administrations.
no, that's fine because I obviously, as a history teacher, was thinking further.
Oh, no. So like
Like,
I could talk about the Obama economy, the Bush economy, the Clinton economy, the Reagan economy, the
yeah,
Carter economy. Carter was before Reagan, right?
yeah,
And then Nixon,
yes, yeah.
Ford.
Are you going backwards? I don't know what you're
Kennedy.
doing right now.
Yeah, I am. I'm going backwards, and I was asking. But
Yeah.
anyway, doesn't matter. All right. So that was the last note I had is showing historical ignorance when it comes to like calling something a Bidenville, and it's like okay. You know what Hooverville, and the thing is like you just don't know who Herbert Hoover was as a president, do you?
Well, and the other thing about that is like when it does come down to historical knowledge, it wasn't like yeah, they were called Hoover bills because, like I said, Hoover was doing stuff, but it just wasn't enough. But the fact of the matter is that he had the 20s was a decade of Republican policy, and this is when the presidents actually did have a bigger effect on the economy.
Agreed.
So what you had was Warren G. Harding, fucking Calvin Coolidge, and then Hoover. And so you have a decade of Republicans in power, and that is really once again why you could have just called them Republican bills. Because well, it's just like putting them on Trump or Biden would be silly, and putting them on Hoover is kind of unfair, but not really because he was literally just following the tradition of that era of Republicans.
Right.
Warren G. Harding, Calvin Coolidge, he was their guy.
Yeah, the predecessor of the Republican strategy.
Well, the successor. of the rebuttal.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
6 cents. Right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Remember, people, as always, have a good one. Knowledge is power.